You know, I remember when we were at the height of the great financial recession, I was interviewing Reverend Jesse Jackson about black unemployment rate. And it just struck me one thing that he said there, that government jobs are a pathway to the middle class for much of America. When government goes in and slashes jobs, it hurts those people who are trying to live the American dream. Give me a sense of what you're seeing and what you expect to see this month out of the jobs report and how it affects so many Americans.
Well, first of all, good morning. You see red lights on Wall Street. I can tell you there are red lights on Main Street. Most of the American economy is driven by consumer spending. These taxes, and that's what it is, a consumption tax, a sales tax, are going to depress spending by the American people, by making things more expensive, but also by injecting a great deal of uncertainty. The ripple effect of that is in the future, the loss of jobs, the slowing of economic growth. When you combine it with all of the layoffs in the federal sector, then what you have is an impending economic slowdown with every commentator predicting some sort of recession. The most important thing for us to remember, this is self-induced by the policies of the White House. 100 days ago, the economy was growing, unemployment was trending down, inflation was lowering. Now we have an economic pandemic on our hands of a global nature. I'm extremely concerned and would hope that the White House would take a step back and reverse most of this, because this has also been put in place without really key conversations and discussions with Congress, leaders, labor leaders, and people across the nation.
Steve, let me get to you. When we're talking about, and the president has said this, that he wants to bring jobs back to America. He wants to bring manufacturing back to America. But according to the JOLTS data, we've had roughly 500,000 open manufacturing jobs in this nation. Do we have the people to man new manufacturing in the United States?
Well, this is the issue. We've got skill set shortages all over, and with 4.1% unemployment today, it's considerably below what we used to consider full employment, which was 5%. So there are issues here, and which is why we need immigration reform and to do it in an orderly fashion. The government cuts so far are really tiny. They may increase, but a lot of those are retirements. The bigger issues are the tariffs here, and the tariffs are, just announced. I don't think you're going to see the results in today's jobs report because none of those impacts are in. But the Conference Board is forecasting that the tariffs that have been announced will reduce the jobs by about 122,000 jobs per month for the balance of the year, and that's before any other tariffs reciprocal tariffs get factored into the equation. The bigger issue is the GDP hit. So the GDP hit could be as much as 120 basis points off of our base case of 2%. So that'll take it down below 1% growth. The Conference Board is not currently projecting a recession, although if you get the reciprocal tariffs in, it could take it lower. Anything around 1% or lower is going to feel like a recession, though, and then CEOs are going to act as if it's a recession. So it might as well be a recession, whether it's technically there or not. You then have higher inflation because of the tariffs, and as a result of that, you kick us into a situation of stagflation, which takes the Fed's tools off the table.
Yeah, it puts the Fed in a really difficult position to try to maintain employment and reduce inflation, and how do you manage all of that? Altimeter Capital's Brad Gerstner was on our air with Scott Wapner yesterday talking about the impact of President Trump's tariffs. And he says he has spoken with CEOs who just think these tariffs go way too far. Let me play it.
I talked to probably 10 CEOs who are all in the business roundtable. These are CEOs of the largest companies in America overnight. And 201, they think this is a huge mistake. They think this is too much, that it will have lasting and cascading negative repercussions for the United States and the global economy.
Steve, I'd like you to put your CEO hat back on from your Home Depot days and when you were managing auto parts and the flow of auto parts coming in and out. How do CEOs even try to make decisions right now when everything's in flux? The entire global supply chain is under pressure.
Yeah, you don't know where things are going. You know, the CEOs are really frozen at the moment. There's so much uncertainty. You don't know what your costs are going to be. You don't know where to put your supply chain. A lot of people had moved supply chains from China to Vietnam. Vietnam just got hit with a massive tariff, so now those costs are out. They don't want to pass the incremental pricing onto the consumers. Those are their consumers. You know, they don't want to damage their brands, and yet at some point, you know, you can't go unprofitable. So this is everything's full stop right now, waiting to see if this is just negotiating strategy. This is the opening bid. You know, they've got Japan's prime minister calling. You know, most leaders of foreign nations are calling. They've said they're going to cut deals. But this period of time has just frozen the economy. The question is, how long is this going to last?
I said Home Depot, but I meant Office Depot.
It's
Sorry,
Office Depot, yeah.
Sorry about that, Steve. I have great producers who are quick to correct me now. Mark, best case scenario when you're looking at jobs report today and what's to come out. I mean, if I were to ask the president, I'm assuming he would say, "Look, we're going to bring back jobs to America. It might take some time, but we're going to get there." That would be good for America, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the horizon to do that is multiple years, also a decade or so. And the question is, are we chasing yesterday's jobs by chasing manufacturing jobs and not the jobs of tomorrow that are service sector, technology oriented, biomedical research? And I think there's got to be some sync between their fiscal policies, which are cutting people, and this sort of economic vision of rebuilding the American economy. The two are not in sync. My recommendation to CEOs is put your political hat on and get to the White House and Congress and say, reverse these policies, change these policies. These policies are a stroke of a pen by one person, the president. And the president, he prevailed on that this is going to hurt the American economy, and he should reverse before the damage is really done.